Hi, it's Chris, and today is Saturday, the 4th of June 2011. And I'm going to briefly comment on the housing market in Australia and provide a brief update due to several requests I've had from my subscribers. And so it's a bit of a follow-on from my previous two video blogs on the Australian housing bubble. Now, first up, I do want to make patently clear and stress to you that Austrian economists try to refrain from predicting things simply because we don't have a crystal ball. And there are many variables that can alter the outcomes and timing of things. So we'd much rather talk about things in terms of cause and effect. For example, should the government implement this, and that kind of policy, then we're likely to see this, and that kind of an outcome, etc. So an example of that would be if the government were to introduce a first home buyers grant, a significant one, and interest rates were to be slashed a little bit, then we could see a rally in house prices. So that's what I mean by we don't know what the government's going to do. There's too many variables out there, so we can only really talk about things in terms of what's happening at the moment and the impacts of certain policies and what they may have on house prices. So I do believe house prices will continue to fall in Australia, as we have seen recently. I believe in the first quarter of 2011, house prices across major cities fell by a bit over 1% and a little bit more in Brisbane and Perth, I think, if I recall correctly. And I do believe we will see an acceleration in the fall of house prices later on in the year should the Reserve Bank of Australia tighten its monetary policy. And the whole reason, as I alluded to in my previous blogs, why house prices will continue to fall is because the impetus for the increase in house prices, namely credit growth, credit expansion, increase the money supply, it shifted the demand curve to the right. There was more money going around and being injected into the housing market to bid up the price of houses. And now we're seeing a tightening of monetary policy, a reduction in government spending, a fall in the credit expansion, and also banks are tightening their lending standards. And I think we'll see going forward more banks starting to realise that they have a lot of residential assets on their books which are falling in value, and that's going to make them a little bit more nervous. And we've also seen a rise in the delinquencies or late mortgage repayments as well. Another thing to consider is that I believe in probably the next 24 months to 36 months, we're likely to see China have a severe economic slowdown due to their credit-induced boom, as all booms are, they're all credit-induced. And this ultimately will affect Australia, obviously, because we're very much linked to China through the commodities resource boom. We'll see people lose jobs in Australia, and obviously this will have somewhat of a dampening effect on house prices as well in Australia. And it is definitely a chance that we'll enter a recession in the next few years. But then again, it depends on so many different things. So I'd much rather talk about cause and effect and based on the way things are going at the moment. So I hope I've provided you with a bit of an insight as to where we're heading with house prices. And I do want to just lastly add the point that I don't believe there's going to be a crash in house prices, and I've never stated that. I know a few other economic commentators have stated there'll be a crash in house prices, but I think what that can imply is that house prices may fall overnight by a significant amount or over a very short period of time by 20-30%. Houses are a rather illiquid asset. I don't see them crashing overnight, and barring some kind of catastrophic event, which I don't see happening. So I believe we'd likely see the steady declines that we've been seeing, and perhaps an acceleration if interest rates were to continue to rise. So I'll leave it at that, and thanks again for listening, and I look forward to your comments. Bye.